Hi everybody. I'm not in a normal place where I do my videos, so excuse me for the lesser quality video. Hopefully you'll hear me and see me okay. Reason I'm doing a video today is I'm unexpectedly got a day home. A flight I had was cancelled, so that's all good. But I thought it was time to pause and reflect on some of the videos I've already done. So take a slightly different stance. The reason I've done that is for two reasons really. Firstly, I've been quite surprised pleasantly at the over 800 views I've had of the videos. I didn't expect that, so thank you everybody. Secondly, I've had quite a lot of from people people that you would expect to take on board some of the things. Some people who are somewhat disadvantaged in society, marginalised, not part of the in crowd I've talked about before. And some of the negative responses, or certainly more challenging responses, have been from people who I would consider to be in the crowd, you know, the white middle-aged men like myself, and that's okay too. But I just wanted to kind of pause and talk a little bit. Somebody said something in an email recently. Why don't I say something positive about SF? Why don't I talk about the good things in SF? Let me explain. I love solution focus. I love solution focused practice. I love solution focused therapy. I love all solution focused approaches. I've been doing it for over a quarter of a century. Of course, I love it. I have a real agenda to get solution focus used out there in as many ways as it can be, because I think it's a very affirming, very inclusive approach. It has a preferred future as the destination for people. So why wouldn't I keep trying to promote that? There's some fantastic practitioners out there. There's some fantastic things about solution focus. Not only do I love the approach and help to try and spread the approach, I've given up an awful lot of time and done a lot of free stuff to support the movement of solution focus. Not that I'm looking for any credit, but the reason I'm doing this set of videos is not about promoting the solution focus approach. This is about the solution focused community having a look at what they're doing now and what they have been doing and stopping the barriers to the approach. If we want the approach to spread, if we want the approach to grow, we have to accept that sometimes inadvertently we are creating barriers. Some of those barriers we create by who we talk to, who we give voice to. Some of those barriers we create by the prices of conferences. Some of those barriers we create by who we invite to train, who we invite to be part of our books, who we reference in the books and papers we write. Some of those barriers are created by how we open up conversations or how we close down conversations. And that really is part of this video series, how we kind of address some of the barriers. And alongside that, there's been people, colleagues of mine, friends of mine, that for whatever reason have felt these barriers are there, have felt that they've been disadvantaged in this particular therapeutic world, in the solution focused world as a whole. And people have said, even on the comments on the videos, you'll note some people have said that, you know, they're fed up with being involved in solution focused therapy because there are too many barriers and they've moved off to another part of solution focused approaches. I think that's sad. I think we need to encourage growth in this solution focused space. And I think we need to encourage growth by inviting new and different voices into the field. And I see that happening. I see some of it happening. I see the new generation of solution focused practitioners out there, and it warms my heart. And in fact, I believe at the UK SFP conference, somebody's doing a whole workshop on the next generation of practitioners. Good on them. You know, I absolutely fully support that. Some might say 25 years on, some of my message is a little bit stale. Some of what I do in solution focus is stale. I hope not, but I need to accept that that's the case. I also need to accept that I have to be aware when people tell me I've created a barrier, when people tell me that for whatever reason I'm not encompassing or inclusive, but I stop and reflect on that. And that's all I'm asking people to do is this part of this video. The other parts of a video series are all about of kind of developments in solution focus, some of the practice that's growing, and I'll talk more about that. But this particular video today is to reflect on where we're at. So, solution focused therapy, solution focused practice attracted me because of its inclusivity, because of its simplicity, and because of its focus on the future rather than the past, which actually has huge resonation with me as part of a recovery discovery movement, as somebody that wants to be moving forward and not necessarily dwell on where I was, and all lots of other reasons why I like solution focus. So I'd love to see it spread further. I'd love to see it spread further. As I've said, the model is inclusive. The model is encompassing. It's invitational. It's observational. However, the model is practiced by people. Not all people are invitational. Not all people are inclusive. And I guess some people know they're not. Many people don't realize they're not. And some people like to think they are. So let's just kind of get some of these things out there. Values. You can't practice as a therapist without values. And one of the things that strikes me is that there is some critique of the solution-focused therapy model from outside therapy. Some people, in solution-focused coaching or solution-focused education, are not interested in the therapy side of things. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. However, in therapy, we do have sets of ethics, sets of morals, sets of values that we need to adhere to. And when I see, as I did on a social media site, a solution-focused practitioner espousing something which I felt was ethically wrong, something which had a very right-wing kind of approach, I kind of have to ask a question. How do you practice solution-focused therapy when you hold views like that? I'm not going to go into the person, I'm not going to go into the views, but nevertheless it exists. When I see a conversation on a message board closed down because somebody has raised some issues that have been particularly had a particular impact on them, I find that difficult. Let's open a conversation, not close a conversation, and that's not all the time, of course. When I see ideas muted or ideas not getting space because it doesn't come from a certain place or a certain area or from certain people, that's not encompassing an invitation. Let me say, the vast majority of people that practice solution-focused therapy practice it with a really good moral compass. I'm not going to kind of not acknowledge that. It's important to acknowledge that solution-focused work in itself makes it difficult to not have a good moral compass, because actually you're looking at people's preferred hopes, people's desired outcomes. If, however, we fail to look at ourselves at any point, and I think now's a good point, and I'll explain why in a second. If we fail to look at ourselves, if we fail to recognize, if we're too defensive about some of the things other people are bringing up, the model holds less credibility to me. And it holds less credibility for those trying to access the model, be they people on the receiving end of that work, or be they people trying to practice it. Credibility is important. And in this time, this is what I'm going to talk about. In this time in the world, there's been a lurch to the right. There's no doubt about that. And there's been a lurch to the ideas that don't necessarily encompass what I would call social values. And in fact, the insults fly around: social justice warriors, snowflakes, this, that, and the other. But I think we're in a very, very interesting point in the world. And actually, as we practice our solution-focused work in the world we exist in, we need to stop every now and then, look at ourselves, look at our world, look at our practitioners, look at the things that we're outwardly saying, and say, are we still on track? Is this where we want to be? So I'm going to leave it there, and just to not justify, but just to kind of say, this is where I come from. I'm not about picking on anybody. I'm not about saying I'm perfect either, because I'm absolutely not, and I've made some horrible mistakes. I'm about saying, if we really believe in the solution focused model and solution focused practice, then let's stop, let's reflect, let's say, what are other people saying outside of our world or trying to get into our world that we need to listen to? Okay. And people have made some quite assertive comments about some of our practice and some of our boards and some of our associations and some of our groupings. And I think we should be grown up enough to hear that. We don't have to agree with it all, but we need to be grown up enough to hear it and to respond to it. And I'll leave it there. And the next video won't be a pause and reflect like this, unless I get huge amounts of stuff. What I want to move on in the next video to do is to look at some of the developments in solution focus. And heresy and misconduct is kind of a headline. It's a grabber, but actually it's not all about heresy and misconduct. It's about things moving forward and how we make ourselves continually relevant. Okay, if we look at therapy particularly, and that's my big interest, if we look at therapy, you've only got to be a bit of a historian to see which therapies rise and which therapies fall and why that happens. And most of it is about the lack of change, the lack of reflection, and the gatekeeping that happens. Okay, thanks for watching. As usual, please leave any comments. I'm fine with that. I don't expect everybody to agree, and that's okay too. Thank you. Bye bye.